Tristan Law Show. If it's your first time here, welcome. And if you've been here before, welcome back. I'm Tristan Law, semi-retired pro wrestler, and today, I'm your host. And wow, I watched WWE Raw again. Thanks so much for joining me. I watched WWE Raw again on Netflix last night, and I had some thoughts. The most entire thing that I was thinking the whole entire time was, did it deliver? Did it deliver? Was it just like episode 2? Did it do a good job? You know, last week was so explosive. If you ask me, I think it set the bar so high for WWE's latest venture. But, you know, we had Seth Rollins, CM Punk, Drew McIntyre. We had a brand new debut, you know, a shocking turn in the Bloodline saga. I don't know. This episode had a lot to prove. Did it deliver? Let's find out. So in the opening segment of Raw last night, you had Seth Rollins, CM Punk, and Drew McIntyre. They kicked off Raw with intensity. They really, it felt like fiery. It felt spicy when I watched it. It felt like they had a legitimate beef that was going on. And one of the things that I saw Seth Rollins do on somebody else's podcast, I think it may have been Chris Van Vliet. Shout out to Chris Van Vliet out there doing this thing in the podcasting world. But Seth Rollins was out there saying that he didn't like CM Punk and stuff like that. And it makes you wonder, like, is it for real? Is it a work? Is it a shoot? Is it a work? Like, we don't know what it is. And the best part is that we don't know. We don't need to know. Just keep enjoying what's going on. But the thing for me that kind of perturbs me when it comes to the Royal Rumble is that everybody is just like declaring themselves for the Royal Rumble. So far, John Cena, CM Punk, Seth Rollins, Drew McIntyre, and Roman Reigns have declared themselves in the Royal Rumble. They just march out onto their respective show and said, I'm in the Royal Rumble. Whatever happened to people just like earning the fact to be in the Royal Rumble? You know what? Fine. Maybe Roman Reigns could say that he could be in the Royal Rumble because he was the longest reigning champion. Maybe John Cena could say that he is going to be in the Royal Rumble, you know, because he's getting ready to retire. Seth Rollins, CM Punk, Drew McIntyre, yeah, they've done good things, but it's like when your friend is having a wedding, you just don't automatically assume that you're in the wedding. Look, let's be honest. Let's not assume that you're even going to be invited to the wedding. But these people, these wrestlers, Seth Rollins, John Cena, CM Punk, Roman Reigns, Drew McIntyre, they're just putting themselves in the Royal Rumble. They're just walking in and saying, hey, you know what? I'm here. You know, but here's my thing, though. What about the lower card wrestlers? Do they get to just walk up and say, I'm in it too? Because there's only 30 spots in the Royal Rumble. If you've been living underneath a rock, the Royal Rumble is officially the road to WrestleMania by the time it's finished, because it kind of lets you know what the main event for WrestleMania is going to be. So it's like really big and important stuff for you to win the Royal Rumble, right? And it's like for somebody who's a lower card wrestler, you want to be, no, you don't want to be. You need to be in the Royal Rumble, because that could be your legacy changing moment of you winning the Royal Rumble, right? It's like a lottery. You're not going to win if you don't play. And in order for you to play, you got to be in the game. So like, how is it that everybody can just say that they're in it and they're not in it? Some people are in it or some people are not. You know what? I don't know, but I think that with the storyline with Seth Rollins, CM Punk, and Drew McIntyre, I think that it's really like adding an extra layer to the Royal Rumble. You know, everybody's been mentioning Roman Reigns' name, you know, a lot, and they're not people that are directly involved with Roman Reigns at this moment. So it kind of adds, you know, hey, should we be watching Roman Reigns? You know, maybe everybody is watching Roman Reigns, and maybe that's their opportunity to just toss Roman Reigns out the second he gets in. I don't know, but the Royal Rumble is coming out on February 1st on Peacock here in the United States. So that's something that we definitely want to check out. And you know what? We're getting ready for it. We had a debut last night on Raw, on Netflix. It was Penta versus Chad Gable. Now, Adam Pearce set this matchup last week by telling God, I can't talk today. By telling Chad Gable, hey, you know, we're going to find the best luchador in the world for you to wrestle. Now, if you've been living on the rock, you don't understand. It was Pentagon Jr., who now debuted on Raw as Penta. You know, he just left AEW, and We knew that. Triple H even said it last week. There's going to be a debut next week. You probably already know who it is. If you didn't know who it was, it's Penta, Pentagon Jr., one half of the Lucha Bros from AEW. And I think that was an amazing showing for Penta. Like, I'll be honest, I don't watch AEW wrestling as intently as I watch WWE. Like, I'll watch, but nothing really, like, puts me on the edge of my seat. I'm not saying that AEW is not providing good wrestling. That's not what I'm saying at all. They have a different flavor of wrestling. It's like somebody preferring a Big Mac over a Whopper, right? They're still both edible. You still like burgers, but one, appeals to you more than the other. And WWE appeals to me more right now. And I just think that was a fabulous match with Penta and Chad Gable. I think that the storytelling itself in the match, was amazing. I think the Canadian Destroyer was probably the best Canadian Destroyer that I've ever seen in my 39 years of life on this planet. That Canadian Destroyer, the way that, look, it takes two people to do a move, right? It takes one person to give it and one person to take it, right? And I think that Chad Gable taking that pile driver, that Canadian Destroyer on top of his head and being able to spike himself and bounce off and fall flat on his face was amazing. I think that Chad Gable was probably the best person to have with Penta. It could have been anybody else, but you know what? I think that Chad Gable is that person. I think that Chad Gable definitely has a bright future within him, and I'd like to see in the next couple of years that he, gets the opportunity to become a champion, to become the WWE Heavyweight Champion or the Undisputed Champion. In the beginning of the match, you were able to see his family, Penta's family, there. And it was emotional, right? And it's one of those things you just have to understand, right? I don't think you really understand unless you have a friend or like you're really like, deep in the trenches with somebody who's a pro wrestler. You don't really understand. So let me go ahead and explain to you. AEW's out there, and don't get it wrong. When I wrestle full time, and when anybody else wrestles right now, their goal is to go anywhere that they can get paid, and whether that be AEW or WWE, right? But everybody knows in the back of their mind where they really want to go. If you are a football player, yeah, the XFL sounds really nice. Yeah, the CFL, if that's still a thing, that sounds really nice. But everybody knows that you really want to go to the NFL. Nobody goes to play basketball in high school and college to say, you know what, I want to go play in Spain. I had a cousin that played in, where did he play? I had a cousin that played pro ball internationally. And I'm sure if I ask him, bro, was your goal to make it to the NBA? He would probably 100% said yes. His goal was always to make it to the NBA. I don't think that anybody's goal is to make it to anything other than the WWE. And just watching his family just in tears, because you got to think about all the birthdays he probably missed, all the bar mitzvahs he didn't miss any bar mitzvahs because he's Hispanic, all the quinceañeras that he probably missed, all the everything that he missed in everybody's life just to get to that one moment. And I'm getting the goosebumps thinking about it because it's like, job well done. Job well done, Penta. I think that San Jose was the best place for Penta to have his debut, really because a majority of the people were Hispanic. They resonated with Penta. They cheered for him when he spoke in Spanish. Well, they cheered for him when he spoke in English too, but they cheered even more when he spoke in Spanish. It was something to them that really hit home for them, right? That's their boy, right? That's their. They could see themselves in him. And maybe some person that's Hispanic watched that show last night and said, you know what? That could be me one day. And you never know the impact that you have on people. If you like what I'm talking about right now, go ahead and hit the like button if you're already watching. You know what? Subscribe as well, too. I like when people subscribe to the Tristan Law Show. Let's see what we have in the chat. We got Brandon B. That show sucks because it was not 3 hours like they said it was going to be on Netflix. Thank you so much for your comment. You know what? I could agree. Some people like their wrestling longer, Brandon, and some people like it shorter. I think Raw last night was like 2 hours and 35 minutes. And that's the best part, right? I felt like they did a lot of wrestling. It's like one of the things that we learn when we go to wrestling school, Brandon, is that less is more. When we're going into the match and we're putting our matches together, we want to do sometimes 10,000 things. But you know what? If we can tell the story with 100 things, tell the story with 100 things and leave the other, 900 things in the bag so that, we can have something extra for next time. So I agree that, maybe it was a little bit too short, but you know what? Let me know in the comments, Brandon, if you're still here. How long is too long and how long is too short? I feel that anything for you less than 2 hours is too short, but you know what? Let's see. Maybe some shows get a little bit of longer time, like the first week. So if you're looking at that time-wise, I can say that could be a letdown. Let's see what else we got. Dominik McGregor checking in. It's a sense of entitlement to feel deserving of a spot in the Royal Rumble. I agree. Thank you so much for your comment. You should earn it. We're not handing out, participation trophies in the WWE saying, hey, you know what? I'm going to declare myself right now for the 2025 Royal Rumble. That's right. You don't have to worry anymore. Tristan Law will be in the Royal Rumble because if everybody's declaring themselves, the hell, I can't declare myself either. Because I could be one of the surprise. It looks like I just blew the surprise. I was supposed to be in the Royal Rumble because I just declared myself. Thank you so much for your comment. Let's see. Brandon checks back in. He says 3 hours is the best time for a show. Okay, I could agree. I think 3 hours is the best time for a show. And I like that last week. And if you're not subscribed, please subscribe. I think that last week, the 3 hours is perfect. We got a lot of wrestling last week. And this week, we got a lot of wrestling as well, too. I feel like the matches are, better. Let me tell you something about wrestling. When we wrestle a show, because I wrestle on the indies a lot, and when we wrestled on a show, and there was, let's say 50 people in the audience, for me, I never phoned it in. I still gave a good match. But when you go out there and there's, a lot of people, and everybody's, hot and, they're cheering and they're having a great time, it does something to you. It puts the battery in your back and makes you want to do the extra mile. And that was one of the hardest things, if you ask me, about wrestling in a pandemic area. There wasn't many people there. It's different to go ahead and take a bump or a fall. We call it bump if you don't know. But for you to take a bump and there's nobody there. But when your adrenaline is pumping and the people are cheering for you, it's it brings you to the next level. So looking at Liv Morgan and Dominik Mysterio, there is a little bit of tension there, and I think the seeds are being planted for Dominik Mysterio's eventual babyface turn. He's going to be a good guy. He's one of the most booed people right now in the WWE, but I think that he is going to make an eventual turn to a babyface. I think his father might have to come out and help him, but I think that Dom is going to be a big babyface. I think that Rhea Ripley is going to have to side back with Dominik as well too, but I don't think it's something that's happening tomorrow. I don't think it's something that's happening anytime soon. I think that they planted the seeds and they're going to slowly water it and cultivate it, and one day we're going to go, oh wow, Dominik Mysterio is a big babyface. I think it could happen. I think it's something that's really possible. Looking at Ludwig Kaiser, right? Ludwig Kaiser had a match with Sheamus. One of the things that stood out to me about that match was, watch when Ludwig Kaiser comes out. When Ludwig Kaiser comes out, there's a guy talking on the phone. I should have put that picture up, right? I just thought about it. I should have put that picture up. There is a guy on the telephone. Who are you talking to during Monday Night Raw? Bro, get off the phone. What are you doing? Telling people, hey, ma, what are you doing? You're hey, ma, I'm on Monday Night Raw. Can you see me on TV? No, send your mom a text. For anybody that's ever been to a Monday Night Raw, look, you can barely hear yourself think, because it's so loud and it's so much stuff are going on. People are cheering. The music is playing. They don't have the music on soft level. They got that music on I got all the windows down. It's the summertime and I just washed the car. I'm turning that knob up until it breaks. That music is so loud you can feel the bass move through your body. And bro is on the phone. Clownfish, if you ask me. Get off the phone, bro. But that match itself was really good. So here's the real important question that I want to ask everybody here. Did episode 2 meet our expectations? Let me know. Did it? We know it didn't meet Brandon's expectations. He got another message. He said he'd worked for WWE back in 2004, so he knows about WWE and wrestling. Okay, cool. Thank you so much, Brandon. You know, one of my places that I always want to work, not only as a wrestler, but maybe like a talent, like, doing interviews and stuff like that. I want to work for WWE too. So thanks so much for joining me. I look forward to having you in the future because, you have a lot of insight that you'll be able to give since you worked for the WWE. If you don't mind, tell us what role you did when you worked for the WWE. I think that episode 2, however, maintained the same exact energy and quality as the debut. I don't think the quality of the show went down. I think that it's still the same. I think the only thing that they were missing was that Jumbotron thingy that they had at the arena where they debuted Netflix, where they debuted Raw. But, that's not going to travel with them everywhere. That's not WWE's, thing. It's a part of the building. They just can't take the building with them. But I think that was the best. They chose a really good building to help debut Raw. And I think that the drones and everything else moving around, I think that's really cool. I think one of the things that I didn't see this week was the referee eye camera, where the referee has a camera mounted on his ear and you can see what's going on. For me, that's a little bit too much inside baseball. And I think that also takes some of the mystique away from pro wrestling. Because if you don't know, like when we're in the ring, me personally, I'm having full-fledged conversations with you in the ring. I never forget the time one time, Bulldog Pittman had him on the show. I think it was this season or the season before. He's standing on the ropes and everything like that. I'm like, and everybody's cheering, and I'm yelling to him, bark, bark, and he starts going woof, 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 and all the fans start going woof, woof, woof. I'm like, okay, now jump, So now he jumps on top of me. So we're having full-fledged conversations, but to the people that are not in the wrestling business, you don't want to see that. And even for me, I appreciate seeing it because I'm like, oh, that's how they call the spots. But for somebody that's not in like the pro wrestling business and you're just a typical fan, you don't want to see how they pulled the rabbit out the hat. You just want to see you don't want to know how they pulled the rabbit out of the hat. You just want to see it come out. You don't want to see how they saw the girl in half. You just want to see that she's cut in half and be amazed that she's still in 5 minutes later. That's just how I feel, what they did. I think that Raw on Netflix, it's excelling at onboarding new viewers by explaining storylines and the characters effectively. If it is your first time watching pro wrestling on Netflix, because you go, hey, what's this Raw thing? Wrestling's on Netflix. Let me go ahead and click play and see what's happening. Or you were a fan that fell out of touch with pro wrestling and now you're back in love with pro wrestling like we are because you're here on the Tristan Law Show watching because you subscribed and hit like. They really explain to you what's happening. You're not really in the dark. They kind of say, hey, welcome to the family. That's dad's chair. Don't sit in dad's chair, right? And go to the fridge and help yourself and take anything that you want. They make you feel real comfortable and they ease you into what's going on. And I think that this is really important because a lot of people probably watched wrestling for the first time last week. They said 4 million people watched Raw last week. Globally with 2.9 million. I'm shouting the numbers off the top of my head. About 3 million people watched in the United States or something like that. That's more people that watched on USA Network, right? Alone in the United States. That's double the numbers in the United States. And you had a lot of new eyes probably watching Netflix. You had to deliver again to make sure that they'd be like, you know what? I want to come back next week. Because one of the things that I see in pro wrestling, and one of the things that I say here on my podcast, I'm only as good as my last episode. There's some episodes I get off of here and I hit, I sign off and everything like that, and I go, wow, that was trash. And I feel like when I come back, I have to do a better episode, right? But there are some episodes like last week. I loved last week's episode and I'm liking this one now. And when I get off of this episode, I'm like, all right, bro, you did a 10. Now let's do a 10.1 next week. And I think that Raw did a 10.1 when it came to, bringing people in who were, new. They had a lot of people watching Netflix. But think about it like this. You can't really password share. My brother used to give me his password in Florida, and I'd give him, my password for something from New York, and then he could just watch, and we just share and cut that on the cost. So maybe that's one of the reasons why Netflix had so many viewers on there, because you can't really password share. I don't know. Let's see what we got in the comments. Let's see. I love Brandon B says, I love all the changing they did and the new colors. I agree. I like the original Raw logo felt really grunge and gritty and it fit for the time. And this new Raw logo it has vibrant colors. I'm glad they still kept with the red. It's vibrant colors. I think they kind of tweaked the color scheme just to almost reflect the Netflix, because the two logos will be sitting side by side with each other. So I think that's something cool that they really did as well too. Let's see, Dominik McGregor said, very true, representation matters with Penta. Yeah, I think representation matters everywhere that you look, you know, whether it is that you're a woman and you see somebody like, you know, they talked, okay, last night on Raw, they crowned the very first ever WWE Intercontinental Women's Champion, right? And it's like they mentioned that the Men's Intercontinental Championship, only one person has held it. And that was China, the ninth wonder of the world. Okay, Pat McAfee? It's the ninth wonder, not the eighth wonder. And for some little girl somewhere in America at that time in 1999, they probably said, you know what? I want to be Intercontinental Champion one day. You never really know what you really did. But I think Raw delivered. I think that Raw did what it was supposed to do. I watched Raw in its entirety. The way I used to watch Raw when it was on USA Network was that I would fast forward through some matches and just keep going, you know, and watch like the in-between segments. But I think that, Brandon, one of the things, though, that you said about the time on Raw is that even though the time is smaller, it gives them time. They don't have to fill a 3-hour box. Right, they can make that box 2 hours if they need. They can make it 2:15. They can make it 4 hours if their heart desires. But what I feel like they're doing, even though they can flex the time, is the perk over any other mainstream pro wrestling company right now, that includes AEW and TNA, is that what they can do is that they give us the matches that matter. They don't have to give us filler. You know what they say? What is it? All filler, no thriller. But now we're getting all thriller, no filler. You know, with this way that they're doing it. They gave us solid matches last night. There was no throwaway segments, nothing to just fill the time. And I think that, you know, we haven't really seen R-Truth. R-Truth is somebody that I like seeing because I think he's entertainment, but maybe they're going to step away from that, you know, that funny ha-ha style of wrestling. I don't know. You know, I hope that they don't. I'm only speculating. I'm not really saying what's happening right now. But let's see. Dominik McGregor said, it's like Wrestling for Dummies guide. They're providing just enough details to make everything click. I had no idea what to expect, but I'm grateful for this experience. And you know what? I'm grateful that you're here watching me live at a random, what's today? Tuesday at noon. I'm live every Tuesday and Friday at noon. So, you know, we break down all the coolest things when it comes to pro wrestling, and we just get you ready for what's happening. But yeah, you know, I think that WWE is doing a really good job, like I said before, you know, giving you the Wrestling for Dummies guide. And who knows, when WWE does really good, all of wrestling does well. Despite what AEW wants to say. And I know people that work for AEW. I know people that work for WWE as well too. But I know people that have worked for AEW and still possibly work for AEW. Look, despite what anybody says, we all know when we close our eyes at night and pull the blanket up to our little neck, pull up the little blankie, we know that WWE is on the top. We know that. And when the top does good, everybody else trickles down. That includes AEW, that includes Impact, that includes the Indies. And if you've never seen an independent pro wrestling show, to go see Monday Night Raw, you're probably going to spend maybe $60, maybe $75. And for $75, you're sitting way up in the top. But if you go to an independent wrestling show, you could spend anywhere from $10, $15, $20 and still get a decent seat, and it's an intimate experience. There are people that will walk around and be like, man, I really want to go to WWE, but I can't really spend that much money. But you will see that there's an independent wrestling show in your town. And you know what? You may see somebody that you might have seen years ago that wrestled for WWE or some big league professional wrestling company, or somebody who wrestles for TNA or AEW. You go, let me go check them out. So now you're going to go check them out. You go, wait a minute, this person still wrestles on AEW today? Let me go out and check Dynamite on Max or TNT when it comes out on Wednesdays at 8 p.m. That's a little plug there for AEW. See how I weave that in there? And it's like, it's intimate, and independent wrestling was a thing that I didn't even know existed until I became a wrestler. It's where 99% of us start. We start on the indies, and it's intimate. It's like, man, It's grassroots efforts. It's the wrestlers. A lot of us hanging up the posters ourselves. We're promoting it ourselves. Like, if you're friends with an independent wrestler, 9 times out of 10, you're seeing them put up posters and everything else like that. Independent pro wrestling is where we kind of learn to, like, self-promote ourselves. But if you ask me, back to the whole topic, thank you so much for your comments and for your interactions, everyone. But if you ask me, I think that Raw definitely delivered next week. I'm looking forward to see what's happening next week. Next week, we're going to have JBL, John Bradshaw Layfield. He's going to return, not as an announcing capacity. He's going to return in a possibly wrestling capacity. He's been in the ring, not really wrestling, but he's been moving around in TNA, and TNA and WWE do have a relationship. So are we moving this relationship from NXT to the main roster now? That's something that's very exciting to take a look at. Something else to think about as well, too, speaking about TNA, Jordynne Grace, I heard that her time in TNA is coming to an end, so it's a possibility that we might see her in WWE pretty soon. And let me tell you, I love that girl. She's such a great wrestler. She looks great. She moves great. So I think she's definitely going to be a full-time addition to the WWE roster. But you know what? Let me know what you think. Follow me on social media at The Real Big Trist. This is the Tristan Law Show. Thanks so much for hanging out. I'll be back on Friday with another episode at noon, and we're going to talk all about wrestling. Looks like WWE Raw is really popular, and I want you to keep watching wrestling. This is the Tristan Law Show. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.